All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this Discord call today. Are you ready to hear the results of the Dad Hat versus Flat Brim competition?
I'm ready to win the competition, if that's what you mean.
No, dude, you should be ready to lose.
Just a reminder what's at stake. If Caleb wins, then Nick, you have to watch all 3 God's Not Dead movies in a row with no bathroom breaks or food breaks. And Caleb, you have to do the entire week of upcoming graphic design in Comic Sans, your favorite font. Agreed?
I'm not worried.
You should be worried.
And carry the 15. X equals Y.
Why are you doing algebra? You're counting.
The winner by a landslide is Nicholas John Mayo, the 15th. Yes! Congratulations, sir. Congratulations, right. Team Dad Hat won. Thanks to each of you who bought a hat from the Blackbar original inventory.
Hold on. I saw the orders come in. You ordered a Dad Hat. You're on Team Dad Hat.
Hang on one second.
No way.
First of all, don't interrupt.
I demand a recount.
You can recount that yourself. Look at that. That's straight maths all the way. Okay.
Aren't you doing calculus?
I haven't even gotten a hat. Do you see my hair? This is a hatless hair. You have both had your hats for like 6 weeks, and mine is not yet here. I've had to suffer this.
Okay. They're made to order. It takes time for them to get in.
This is the law and this is the way. Shut up.
You know what? Fine. I have a video to record. I got stuff to do. I hope you guys enjoy the Comic Sans because it'll be the last time it's ever used anywhere near this channel. Goodbye. Hello, my name is Caleb, and today we're going to talk about OBS. It's been a little while since I've created any videos on OBS, and I've learned a few more tricks along the way that I wanted to share to improve your church's online events and whatever it is that you're using OBS for. We're going to talk about how you can bring in other guests over video chat, some advanced tips on color correcting and color grading your footage, as well as using external interfaces and keyboard shortcuts to better use OBS as a switcher. Let's get started. Welcome to Blackbar. It's gonna be a long week. First and foremost, we're going to show you how you can bring in a guest over video chat through OBS. A lot of churches have had to do this by recording in multiple locations because of restrictions in their state. And really, the technique I'm going to show you is probably as simple as you can get it, but there's some tips I'd like to give you along the way to getting the best stream possible. First and foremost, you need to pick a video calling software. Now, Zoom is an obvious choice here as it's something that everybody's pretty comfortable with at this point, whether we like it or not. But when it comes to video and audio compression, Zoom isn't the greatest. It'll hold up a pretty decent stream if your guest's video connection isn't as good, but if you're looking for quality, I would highly suggest checking out Discord, actually. That's right, the same platform that we use to help church media professionals, pastors, and volunteers get better at what they do every day, little plug there, can also be used to do video calls, and surprisingly, the quality far exceeds anything Zoom is capable of putting out. Both you and your guest will need to make an account, then add each other as friends, and simply hit the Start Video Call button in your chat.
Hey, did you, were you calling just to tell me how great Dad Hats are again, or, you know?
How about no? So regardless of whatever software you're using for the video chat, you're gonna want to make sure that the participant's video is as large as you can get it in the window. If that means maximizing it, if that means getting rid of any other UI interfaces, that's what you're gonna want to do. For Discord, there's a small button down here that hides the chat and makes the video much bigger. You're also gonna want to make sure if there's 2 people in the screen that you click on just your participant, make sure they have an even larger video. Now pop over to OBS and create a new scene. Under sources, you're going to want to add a window capture. Call it whatever you need to, then find the video chat program that you're using. Now you're going to want to scale the video down until you can see everything. And then in order to crop in to see just the video participant's view, hold down Alt and drag these anchor points in to trim up the video until you're satisfied with just seeing their face. Now scale it all up to see them in full frame, and you've got a full shot of them in crisp footage coming over the internet. Now, of course, in addition to video, you might want to hear your guest. I don't, but you might. So let's talk about how to do that as well. In your sources, add another source and go to audio output capture, and then find the device that you're typically using to monitor audio with. This will be different on your computer than it is on mine. Now make sure that your guest isn't muted.
Really not nice for you to mute somebody while they're trying to have a discussion. I mean, you called me, right? I mean, just because you're sour about losing the whole competition with the hats doesn't give you the right to mute me.
Okay. We'll get through this quickly. Once you have the audio set up, have them say a couple words to make sure you're getting good levels.
A couple words. You get it? It's a dad joke because I'm also the guy with the dad hat. So.
And you should be set up and ready to go with hopefully a much more interesting guest than the one that I've gotten today.
Dude, you're just salty because you lost the competition.
Yeah, I'm sure. Next up, let's talk about really dialing in a color grade for your footage in OBS. I'm currently actually filming this video right now on OBS using my webcam on my computer, but I have some extra filters going on to make the footage look extra awesome. This is what the raw video looks like coming into the webcam. It's quite a bit darker, definitely not as nice of a grade going on, and you can see all the junk in the background behind me. So let's talk about the basics of how we can get a really nice grade on this footage and get it back to what it was looking like before. First, you're gonna actually wanna hit record and record a small segment of whatever it is you plan on streaming so you can get a sample of what the before is. Next, you wanna open up that footage in either a video editing software or in Photoshop or any photography editing software. I am a Photoshop fanboy and will use that, but the same process can be followed for pretty much any program. Now, once you've opened up your video in your software of choice, you need to start making edits to it in order to make it look how you want everything to look in your grade. The important thing if you're using a program like Photoshop is that you don't affect the image itself. Instead, you want to work with adjustment layers. Adjustment layers are what we call non-destructive editing tools. They allow us to go back and change settings without permanently altering the pixels that are affecting the image underneath. If you haven't used any of these settings before, I'd highly suggest checking out something like Levels. Levels is a really great tool for controlling the exposure of your image by just clicking and dragging these three nodes around. Now, in whatever software you're using, you don't want to go overkill with this. Color grading should never be something that you see. It's something more that you feel. Now, I played around with my grade a little bit and got it around to what it was prior to me turning everything off. And now it's time to convert it into a format that OBS will understand. What you're going to want to do is hunt down an image that actually comes with OBS when you install it. Yours might be in a slightly different place depending on where you install that, but mine is here. Pause the video and grab that shortcut if you're looking for it for yourself. The file you're looking for specifically is the PNG file called Original. Pop that open in the same software that you're editing the footage with. This wacky rainbow of an image is actually what we call a lookup table, and we've covered these in previous videos before, but essentially this is a tool we can use to communicate to OBS when you see one color, what color do you actually want to show? What we're going to want to do is take the adjustments we made to our footage before and apply them to this image instead. In Photoshop, that just looks like selecting all the adjustment layers, dragging them over to the new document and placing them here. Again, depending on which software you're using, that might mean you copying some settings down and pasting them over to new places. Do whatever you got to do in whatever software you're playing with. After that, simply save the PNG back as a PNG under a new file name. Now head back into OBS and find the video source that you edited. For me, mine's just called webcam. Right click on it and go to filters. What you're going to do is head down here to this plus button and click apply LUT. Name it whatever you need to, and where it says path, you're going to want to browse to the PNG we saved earlier. Turn that on and bam, we are finally back to the nice color we saw at the beginning of the video. You can also adjust the amount if you find that it's a little bit too much for your taste, and make sure to save the project file of whatever you were working with before in a place you can edit it, just in case if you want to make big changes later. Now you might be wondering how I got my background blurred out like it was in the beginning of the video. I'm going to let you know now, this is not an option that everybody's going to be able to do. You need a very specific piece of computer hardware to be able to pull it off. Specifically a video card from NVIDIA that's at least last generation or newer. These are not cheap cards, but what you can do with them is pretty cool. I'm using a program named NVIDIA Broadcast. It's a free little applet that uses artificial intelligence to figure out what is supposed to be in focus in the screen and blur everything else behind me. It works similarly to how like Zoom and other video calling programs will blur the background for you, but I found that it does such a good job that I'm actually able to use it and be somewhat believable most of the time. You simply pop open the applet, tell it what your webcam is, turn on the switch, and bam, blurred out background. It's pretty incredible. I can make it mess up if I really try to, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the results. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is how to use OBS like a traditional hardware switcher. If you're using a multi-camera setup in OBS, or if you have multiple scenes set up for your graphics or downstream key or anything like that, you'll often find that you're clicking back and forth between multiple scenes as you cut. Now, clicking is fine. It will absolutely do the trick if you have nothing else, and it works in most smaller situations. But if you have a lot of cameras going on, and if you have a lot of things to switch between, it can be really handy getting a hardware solution to be able to click back and forth between the different camera options. Now, you can absolutely set up keyboard shortcuts very easily to switch back and forth, but something I found really helpful is actually getting a little piece of hardware called a Stream Deck. Now, I have a Stream Deck Mini, I believe. It's much smaller than the normal version. It only has 6 buttons as opposed to like 15 that the original one has. But using something like this affords some additional advantages to just using your keyboard. First, you can customize the actual images that are on the buttons here to make it easier for new users to figure out what each button does exactly. Plus, the Stream Deck is specifically designed to work with OBS, so regardless of what program you have up or whatever else you're doing on your computer, these buttons will always trigger what they're supposed to. Even if I have a video game pulled up on one screen, because that's what I do a lot, I can still use these buttons to control what OBS is doing without alt-tabbing out of the software. You can get these things for stupid cheap, like $80 for the one that I have here, which is miles cheaper than any typical video switcher that you'd be using. Now, obviously, it's not an actual video switcher. It's more of an interface that you can use to control the switching that's being done in software. But if you're someone who prefers those actual buttons instead of clicking back and forth on each scene, it can make a big difference. Now, I hope that some of these tips were helpful to you as we're all trying to figure out how to use OBS to best improve our live stream quality. If you're running into any difficulties along the way, or you want to try to figure out how to do something that we haven't covered, make sure to check out the Blackbar Discord. It's down in the description. We're here to help you figure out how to do this stuff, and who knows, maybe you've learned something that I haven't talked about, and we can teach as many people as we can how to improve the quality of their streams. Thank you for checking this one out. I hope it was helpful, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Blackbar. If you haven't already, make sure to check out the Blackbar podcast, where we go more in depth into the topics we cover in these videos. If you're in love with the mission of Blackbar and want to help make this ministry happen, be sure to join our Discord to figure out how you can volunteer and get involved. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.